The only way to achieve greatness is to see the fear and do it anyway. 6 years ago, we had this crazy idea. We created these vitamin routines for specific hormonal life stages.
One of your products is being consumed every second. What was that early foundational stuff that you were doing to get that traction going?
I mean, our first year of marketing budget, we had $10,000.
Are you working with a lot of influencers?
Pull up a chair. So here we go.
Hey, business besties, welcome back to Female Found World. It's Jasmine. I'm the host of the show, and today I'm chatting with Alex Taylor, the co-founder of Perelel. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
People that don't know Perelel, what are you guys doing?
We make targeted vitamin solutions for each stage of a woman's hormonal journey, and we are founded by doctors and moms as well.
Who are your co-founders?
I co-founded the business with a woman named Tori. She has a background in finance and operations. And then my other co-founder is Dr. Bayati. She is a OBGYN on the West Side here in LA with a very holistic bend to her practice. And in addition to my co-founders, we have a founding team of medical advisors that also weigh in on all of our formulations as well as our education and our product.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. I want to kick off with some milestones, but to help people understand what it is that you've built, because you've been around for only a few years, 3 years, is that right?
5 years.
5 years?
Yep.
5 years,
yeah.
Which is still pretty young. And now you're selling one Perelel capsule is consumed every second.
Yes.
That's wild.
It's wild. I still pinch myself when I hear that stat. It feels completely surreal because, 6 years ago, we had this crazy idea and obviously took about a year to get it off the ground. And now 5 years in, as of just a few days ago, it's just unbelievable what we've created. And it's really a testament to our team and finding a product that really met the market in a moment when women wanted something more comprehensive and something they could trust.
Take us back to those early days of starting the business.
I got the entrepreneurial bug very early. I knew early on that I wanted to start something after having been at a startup and selling the business and being part of that and seeing the excitement, but also the ability to shape and build brands. At the time, Who What Wear was about 20 employees, and it was a daily newsletter, very similar to Daily Candy. Talk about a throwback.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a daily newsletter, shopping focused. And I came in and had a vision that this should be a fully fledged digital publishing empire. And there's so much we can do here. And so I joined the business, became the president and executive editor-in-chief over all of the entities that would later come to life. So that included Birdie, Domain, we had a Gen Z publication, and then we eventually launched a consumer goods division, which I was at the helm of as well, where we started to develop products, really leveraging all of the information and data that we got from our editorial content. I ran the business, helped spearhead all the fundraising efforts. I learned so much, but I was very young in a very elevated role. I was very aware of what I didn't know, and I was very conscious of the fact that I was very young. And I was always a little insecure about that. And so I got myself a coach and put some proverbial rings on my tree just to learn how to lead as a young person. And it was one of the best investments I've made. He introduced so many wonderful practices to my life, from not only how I show up with my team and really helping me fight back against that imposter syndrome, but he introduced meditation to me and just so many tools that I use now. So as I was running that business, I was being honored on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. And I only share that because I was there and I broke out in shingles. And I was 28 at the time. And
I also got shingles at 28.
You did.
Yeah.
I want to hear. Yeah. We need to do a separate podcast where I can hear all about you because I hate talking about myself. But I broke out in shingles and I also started to feel not at home in my body. I know that sounds crazy to say, but it is a very real feeling. And I was suddenly lethargic. I was really foggy. I just didn't feel good. And also my doctors were like, you're 28. You should not have shingles. You're full, this doesn't make sense. So this set me off on a journey. And now looking back, hindsight, you always have such clarity. But at the time, I was like, what is this mess of life I'm in? I've hit my stride in my career. I'm at the top of my game. Here I am being honored. What's going on? Why is my body failing me when I need it most? And after 9 different doctors and nearly a year of various appointments, I was finally diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And, autoimmune disproportionately affects women. About 80% of cases are in women. Why? we don't know because women's health is vastly under researched, which now I do a lot of advocacy work in. And this autoimmune disease would later shape my fertility journey, increase my rate of potential miscarriage significantly, among other things. It would shape my pregnancy, my postpartum, and open my eyes to something that I just couldn't unsee. And through that journey of seeing all of these different practitioners and physicians to help me care for myself, I started to piece together this crazy vitamin routine. When I was optimizing for my fertility journey, I was taking NAC and CoQ10 and a great prenatal. And then once I became pregnant, oh, you're building the neural tube in the early days. You need more folic acid, less later. So I just had this experience where I was piecing together this routine constantly. And it was just also a really haphazard experience. It was the time it was like 2017, 2018 when I was starting this journey. It was like, you can have anything delivered in 20 minutes, and yet, why is it so damn hard to take care of myself with my autoimmune disease? What I learned was that it was self induced by stress. And the lesson here to learn is that no job is worth your health. No job. Doesn't matter how great it looks on the outside. At the end of the day, what is critical is your health and the richness of your relationships. And that was such an eye-opening experience for me as I don't want to say I was a girl boss because I don't think I was I don't think I was like a terrible person by per se. I know there's a whole rap there, but like I was working really hard. I was the
Yeah.
girl waking up at 5:30, doing Soul Cycle, drinking my lemon water. I mean, like the whole trope.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized was like, that's not happiness. And my God, I jeopardized my health, like my potential unborn child, my future for a job. What was I thinking? And so it was a really eye opening experience. And so from there, I decided I needed to make some changes. So upon my diagnosis, my physician told me, you have to do three things. He said, first of all, reduce your stress. LOL, I'm a millennial. I
Yeah.
can still say it. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? What do you mean reduce my stress? Like, I'm just a stressed person. But I had to take that seriously and I had to think about what could I tangibly change to support myself. Maybe I shouldn't be doing high intensity workouts every single day and pumping my cortisol.
I often think like when I look at Gen Z, I'm like, you guys have no idea how good you have it with this like Pilates matcha situation.
Yes, it's so good and so healthy and balanced. We definitely had
We
it
were
the
just
other
punishing
way.
ourselves
We
every
were.
day.
It was
Yeah.
wild. And that's like another can of worms, like culturally, like how women believe they do have to subscribe to that type of
Yes.
energy and mindset. But at any rate, the other two things he told me to change were to reduce my stress. I had to start taking a medication. Fine. Okay, great. And then the third thing was they recommended that I become gluten free because essentially, in very layman's terms, like my thyroid was attacking itself. And there's some associations between gluten and I won't get down that rabbit hole, but at any rate, I made those three changes and I committed. I changed my job. I went over to Urban and I joined Urban. But while I was there, I had my firstborn, my son, and I just couldn't get it out of my head that I wanted to start something. As a new mom, I felt failed, confused, frustrated. There were a few different ideas I had in mind, but I wasn't quite sure where it was. So, I think a lot of people, when they want to start something, like, well, what do I start? And, it's pretty wild, but the universe will unfold and show you.
Mm.
I know that sounds crazy, but it really did. And so as I was talking to lots of people about these different ideas that I had, a friend of mine that I'd met who was a VC said, I'm talking to another woman who's kind of circling the same drain. She wants to do something in this space and she has completely different skill set than you. You guys should talk."
Brilliant.
And I was like, okay, like blind date, love it. She set us up on a blind date and I show up and my son was very young. I was still nursing him. So I was like, okay, I got 45 minutes before I got to get home and pump or feed the baby. We started to meet weekly and just start to dream and think about what could we create? Where is there white space? What's needed? What were our own personal challenges? And as we started to talk more, I shared more about my background and my experience. She brought in her own very different experience in terms of why she felt frustrated in the vitamin aisle. And when we came together, we thought, wait a minute, there's such an opportunity to reinvent this category and reinvent it from the ground up, built by women that really understand what we as patients and consumers need and want and expect. But also, can we partner with the doctors and experts that know best? So, together, we created these vitamin routines, full vitamin routines that are made for specific hormonal life stages. So we started in the prenatal vitamin category, and then we expanded to support her from menarche. And so if people don't know what menarche, that's actually when you start your period through menopause. And so we've created these vitamin routines that are created by our doctors. They put together the latest research, their clinical insights, and they craft a routine that not only includes your standard multivitamin or prenatal vitamin, but additionally, what critical supplements do you need during that stage to optimize your health goal, whether it be fertility or support that hormonal stage that you're occupying.
I want to talk about the early days of the business and
Yeah.
what you did in those first couple of years to get the traction that then later built this business where one of your products is being consumed every second.
So much power is in the pre-work. The work that is even done before you're in market. And that's really about we knew we were entering a highly commoditized category. So how can we differentiate? And for us, we knew that opportunity was through a powerful brand. Not just any brand, but I believe powerful brands are brands that are identity brands, brands that give someone a sense of place in the world. People want to feel seen. We vote with our wallets and we use brands to communicate who we are. I mean, I'm sure many of your listeners can look at their vanity and proudly say, like, this is me. I use Say and I love Summer Fridays and I use herbivore botanicals or whatever it might be. And that says something about them. That's so powerful. You think of someone who walks around holding a MacBook laptop that says, I'm creative, whereas someone who's riding a Harley Davidson is, I'm a badass. Like, it's incredible how we as humans use brands to signal who we are and express ourselves. It's beautiful. And we thought, no one's done that in this category of women's health, specifically vitamins. And what an opportunity. How can we make this woman feel seen and supported and really make her feel proud to be part of something? So in those early days, there was a lot of pre-work done on what the brand is. What is the brand identity? What is our values? How is the brand expressed? What is our voice and tone? How do we differentiate ourselves from other brands in the space visually, as well as tonally through our voice that we're very proud of? So there was a lot of work done, and we put together a pretty rigorous brand book, which is really where I thrive, and I love to spend a lot of my time in defining. So we did that. And then we stepped back and thought about what can only we do? And when we think about the skill sets that we have, what can only the brand do? From where does the brand have authority and credibility to be based on the structure we've established? But also, between my co-founder, myself, what are the skills that we have that we can uniquely bring to this business? What can only we do? And my background, as you know, is in editorial and brand building and content and community. And so we said, let's lean into that. We also saw there was just such a gap. Women want to know more about their bodies. While there's a lot we don't know about women's bodies, with the wealth of knowledge we do have, how can we bring that forward? And so we did a lot of content development in those early days. We launched our Instagram. We had a pretty robust blog. We really tapped the top experts and voices in women's health, or people that even had their own personal story and contextualized it through a medical narrative. And we brought that forth. And so we thought about it. Content was like our proverbial campfire. And if we could use that campfire to have people gather around it, we naturally create community. And we were talking about this a little earlier before we started recording, but when you sit shoulder to shoulder with someone and you're learning something and you're invested, there's also this je ne sais quoi, like this connection that you build that is very deep and profound. And so for us, it was really using content to build the brand. From there, we then leaned into a lot of influencer. We were very strategic with our influencer partnerships, where a lot of brands will partner with an influencer and then move on to the next one the next day. For us, we had two things we really needed to build into. We needed to, one, show the targeted nature of our packs, the fact that you can come in on our fertility pack. And if you become pregnant and you move into our first trimester pack, our subscription automatically updates you into second and third and then postpartum, because we collect your due date and we can support you with the appropriate products of where you are in your journey. And so we wanted partners that could go through that journey with us. And also the second thing is authenticity. like, if you really love our products, like, stick with us, show your
Hmm.
community. And that was critical. So we kind of took the influencer playbook and lit it on fire and decided, how can we do this differently? And we invested in a lot of long term partnerships that showed the commitment to our products, the respect and reverence for the clinical backing and the physicians involved, but also the commitment to, wow, this really supports me through all these stages. So we did a lot of that. And then also just community building. So whether that be events and gatherings, really surprising and delighting our women in a way that only we can understand how to do and only Perelel has the authenticity to deliver on. So we did a lot of that in the early days. And then honestly, gave away so much free product. I mean, our first year, our marketing budget was coming from my co-founder and I's bank account. So it was like, we had $10,000.
Hmm.
Okay, what are we going to do to compete with the juggernauts? And so we really thought outside the box. We gave away a ton of product. We tried to be everywhere we could that really reinforced trust. So if there was a partner or brand that had a high level of credibility and reverence for strong formulations, clinical backings, we made sure that we were part of that, whether it be giving them product for their event gifting or just getting the product out there, because that was also the X factor. It's rare when you create a product that also has great marketing. Like, it's hard to create a great product and a great brand because typically you've got a founder that's really weighted in one side or the other. And that was the power of my co-founder and I. She is incredible at the business acumen. She is brilliant with finance. She's absolutely amazing. And I'm really good at what I do on the brand building side. And that really gave us a leg up. So that's also just a testament to the power of co-founders and, getting a lot further than you otherwise could on your own and accepting help. So those are some things that we did in the early days that really established the foundation and then we built on and
Hmm.
scaled.
I specifically want to talk about the influencer marketing piece because I think it's really interesting in the way that you didn't just use influencers to, I don't know, I feel like influencers can be used as like a very much just like a brand awareness tool or
Mhm.
to make a brand feel relevant or cool, but you did it to
Mhm.
build trust, like genuinely build
Yes.
trust.
Yes.
What does it look like now? Are you
Mhm.
working with a lot of influencers, a few
Mhm.
influencers? Are they all still long-term partnerships?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So much. Okay, pull up a chair. So here we go. We have a lot of dimensions to our influencer marketing strategies. So in the early days, we first of all just had to tell the world, what is Perelel and why do you trust it? That was like the first couple years of what we were doing. And how does the product system work? How do people oscillate through the different SKUs and why do they love the experience? Then we moved into the phase of, okay, how do we amplify this and get more out there? Also, can we leverage influencers for both brand awareness and trust building, but also in a performance capacity to drive sales, and there's of course a few unicorns out there that can do both, but the reality is there's different camps and groups of people that are more effective for different KPIs. So we have a whole cohort of influencers that we engage to really focus on conversion related partnerships. So they're really great at mobilizing their audiences, building trust and getting them to buy a product. Then we have other influencers that we purely partner with for impressions and reach and engagement that really ensure that we're kind of building that microphone of brand awareness, but they also have to have the trust factor. So oftentimes those partners are engaged in either multi-month or multi-year partnerships. We've had some folks with us for many years. I mean, a great example is Pia Baroncini.
Hmm.
She was a ground zero customer, loved the product, was genuinely taking it, was recommended by her doctor. We actually love when people are recommended Perelel by their doctor. And then we like to elevate that story because when we launched, we were in about 100 different doctor's offices because doctors saw this and were like, this is a superior product.
Yeah.
I'm going to sample this to my patients. So, at any rate, we really invested in a lot of those long term partnerships, and that's been incredibly powerful for us. Then there's the layer of the gifting and seeding and affiliate. Shop My cannot be understated. It's an incredible platform for brands as well as creators. And then we also do a lot of gifting ad hoc. We do targeted giftings, we do experiential giftings. And typically, if there's a brand campaign gifting, there's a key message that's meant to be conveyed through that gifting and experience. And then we do a ton of surprise and delight with our own customer. I mean, she's ultimately our greatest influencer. She influences us. She's our muse. So we're constantly gifting her and surprising her with different things along the way. So if you're a customer, you might be familiar with some of those things, but that's also something that sparks great joy, but also supports the whole marketing flywheel. You have to have boots on the ground, real everyday people out there evangelizing for your brand. And when we look at some of our exit surveys, one of the biggest drivers is word of mouth,
Mm.
you know?
I want to talk about your funding journey a little bit now. So you
Yes.
mentioned at the beginning that
Mhm.
super scrappy marketing budget, 10 grand. Let's see what we can do with it, which I relate.
Yes.
I am very curious about what your funding journey has looked like because you've raised money since then.
Yes.
It's been 5 years.
Mhm.
When did you start taking on
Mhm.
investment and why was that the right time to do it or not the
Yeah.
right time on
Yeah.
reflection?
Well, first of all, my co-founder and I have been part of startups and high growth companies prior to starting our business. And we had seen the downside of raising a ton of money and chasing an unrealistic valuation. And we
Hmm.
saw a lot of that fallout over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And so we really took that to heart as a cautionary tale. We didn't have an ego. We had a lot of clarity of what our business was and what it could be. And so that actually allowed us to approach the fundraising process with more discipline and thoughtfulness than I think. I think it's hard to turn down a big check when you're a founder, but sometimes you have to.
Were people coming to you early on wanting to invest? I feel like they would have been.
We Maybe if it was a different time, but the
Mm.
window of time in the universe where we launched Perelel was not a time that anyone was giving out
Yeah.
any money.
Yeah.
So rolling the tape back, my co-founder and I in 2019 had like this idea, we're like, maybe we'll do this, I don't know. And then we both said, okay, it's about to be the holidays. Like, let's go have a minute. If we wake up on January 1st and we want to do this, like, let's text each other and do it. So January 1st, we text each other. I'm like, let's do it. So we quickly, incorporated the business, put together a pitch deck. Because our brand is about targeted nutrition, we couldn't just launch with one product. We had to launch with 5 SKUs. And the MOQs on those SKUs, I'll never forget, were 2,500 units per SKU.
Mm.
So it's not inexpensive to also like buy the product, do the packaging, get it all done. But we knew we had to do it that way to communicate out of the gate that Perelel offers targeted nutrition for each stage of womanhood. We had to do it. And so, like, okay, well, we'll fundraise. So, March 8th, we did our first VC pitch. March 8th, 2020. I should
Yes.
emphasize the year because we all know where this is going. And 2 days later, everyone's pocketbooks slammed shut, the world shut down, and we were in COVID. It was really scary. I just left my job. My co-founder, same thing. And we're looking at each other like, what is happening? I mean, the great unknown was looming before us, and it was really scary. And we thought, okay, we really believe in this business. We actually think women need this more now than ever. What are we going to do? We said, let's bootstrap it. I was not from a wealthy family. I've built all of my own wealth myself. My co-founder has her own, backing in terms of how she kind of brought in her capital to the business. And we both decided to put in money into the business. And then we also went out to friends and family and brought in some friends and family via a safe note later. And I'll never forget, we looked at each other and we said, let's launch this in September 2020. Like, let's just give ourselves a date. We launched September 30th, 2020.
You made it.
And we made it by the hair on our chinny chin chins. We did it. And yeah, so those early days, it was really tough because all of the institutional capital was dried up. They were either investing in kind of saving the ship over here or there of their current investments. Obviously, there was a large resistance to risk. And then also all the goalposts, moved. Seed rounds didn't exist. Pre-seed, never again. Like these things just dissolved overnight. And so we're looking at each other and, well, like, let's just bootstrap this, bring in friends and family, get it off the ground. And within 30 days of launching the business, we had shipped all 50 states.
Wow.
I mean, we didn't. We
How did
had
people find
content.
you? Like, that's
We had
wild.
content. We did a really robust launch gifting. We
Yeah.
brought in partners who then amplified. Like, I mean, you name it, we did it.
Yeah.
But it was very scrappy. I mean, we all
Was
hand
it just
packed.
the two of you? Or did you
It
have
was
a
the two
team?
of us, and then we hired one person, our first hire, who actually worked for me for many years at Who What Wear. Incredible human. Her name's Carson. I have to give her a shout out. She is just so brilliant. She was our first employee. She did it all. She was technically at the time our head of content, but you have to be a Swiss Army knife. You
Yeah.
got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do everything. I mean, we did it all,
What does the
all
team
of
look like
us.
now?
We have just under 40 employees.
Wow.
Yeah,
In LA?
all over.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
go into an office or are
We
you
have an
remote?
office here in LA in
Yeah.
Santa Monica, and then about a third of our team is remote. Remote has been great. It's allowed us to retain incredible talent
Mhm.
and give them the flexibility of being remote. And I think in a post-COVID world, just changed. Like you can get a lot done. A lot of our creative and brand team are together because some of that work needs to be a bit more in person. But it's working. Yeah.
Something that I'm really curious about your story is you started a business at a different stage of life than a lot of people who come on this show. Like you
Mhm.
already had this big corporate career, you were already
Mhm.
successful. And we were talking a little bit before we turned the mics on about
Yeah.
this. And it's just a different decision to go all in to start a business if you're not a college student or a recent
Mhm.
grad.
Mhm.
And the income you have to replace is like very different.
Mm.
You've got dependents.
Yep.
I want to learn more about the how you made that decision
Mhm.
and why you decided to make that decision and how you got to the point that you felt comfortable in it.
Mm.
Because I think there are people listening who are like, oh, I want to take that leap, but like, man, that's
Mhm.
scary.
I mean, wow. There's so much I wish I had known, but I had to go through it to learn it,
Mm,
as we all do with life's lessons. But maybe this will be helpful to someone. But first of all, like that first pang of fear, the only way to achieve greatness is to see the fear and do it anyway.
mm,
You have to go there. You have to go to the other side. Greatness is there, but it's the question of will you go? So there's that first hump that you have to get over. And then you land in the world of logistics and reality. And for me, I was the breadwinner in my family.
hmm.
My husband was unable to work during COVID because he worked in film production, which
Wow.
had completely shut down. And on top of that, I had to figure out the logistics. I was very fortunate to have a home, but I had a mortgage and I had children to feed and responsibilities. And so that weighed quite heavily. But also on the flip side, I was pretty de-risked from an investment perspective because I was a seasoned executive. I
Yeah.
had a background. I wasn't starting from zero. I wasn't a college student, eating top ramen out of my dorm room. I had built a career. I understand how to lead a business, how to build a brand. So there was a lot of value in that, but that is completely overlooked in the fundraising process and in building your business. And there is a lot of expectation that if you're starting a business, you have to suffer.
Mm,
And the reality is, you kind of do. It is hard. For
mm.
me, it meant a ton of risks. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you there were so many nights where I would sit on the floor of my closet, paralyzed, paralyzed, completely paralyzed, like my heart frozen because I was so stressed and anxious and worried about how I was going to pay my mortgage or how I was going to pay for the nanny so that I could even go work on my
Mhm.
startup. It was very, very hard. But here's the thing, when you're an entrepreneur, the most important thing is you have to believe in yourself that you're going to figure it out. And figure it out, I did. I worked 4 consulting jobs
Wow.
to cover my costs of living so that I could show up for my startup and cover a nanny. I had to do those things. It sucked. It was so hard. It was not fun. But also, greatness is on the other side. I knew I could get there with this brand. I knew we were building something really important and it was a means to an end. And I knew it wasn't forever. The next step is not the last step. Like, we're so caught up in this idea that this decision is going to be all encompassing forever. This is what it is. And that's just not true. Things will change. They always do. And as long as you're taking that next step, you're moving in the right direction. And so it was really, really hard. It was impossible. I mean, also, you can't pay yourself very much when you're starting a business, if at all. So you have to get creative. And for me, it was consulting. So I started with 4 consulting jobs. I eventually narrowed to 1 and then finally got to a place where I could cover some more of my income. My husband was working again. So I was able to, you know, be 100% at my business, but that was really hard.
How long did that take? Because I don't think enough people talk about the fact that, particularly when you're launching a consumer brand, it's different if
Mhm.
you're launching like a service based business where
Mhm.
you are getting paid immediately for the work that you're doing. But
Yes.
consumer brands take a lot of money before you can start like
Mhm.
drawing anything out of the business.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are asking this question of how do I fund the business? How do I fund my life? And
Yeah.
how long did it take you before you were able to just be like, oh, this is my main thing now?
I mean, the entire year pre-launch, I was consulting
The whole year.
the
Yeah.
whole year. And then
Mhm.
pretty much the first year post-launch,
Mhm.
I was consulting on the side,
Yeah.
working off hours, weekends, nights. I forgot to mention this. After having a tough time getting pregnant the first time, I was surprise pregnant the second time.
Wow.
And I had HG, which is
Oh
basically
man.
all day morning
Same.
sickness.
Yeah.
So it's like everything all at once. But also, I believed in myself. I dug so deep. I cried a lot. I also had the acceptance of things that I had to forfeit. When you're going to take a risk like this and you want to change your life, you have to accept that you have to give up your old life to start your new life.
Mm.
And people love that saying, but they forget that there is a tremendous amount of grief that still comes with letting go of your old life to bring in the new life. And that was hard. And I navigated quite a bit of grief, a new identity shift. I mean, there was so much going on for me beyond just my family, my career, my place in the world, being a big exec to being this little startup founder. I had to really get in touch with this ego and that it doesn't freaking matter and just really trust in myself. But it can't be overstated. There is grief when you have to give up your old life to start your new life. And it's something that you'll get through, but it's part of the process.
Wow, that's so powerful. The last thing I want to ask you, Alex, is for a resource recommendation, something
Mm-hmm.
that people who want to build like you've been building,
Mm-hmm.
lead like you've been leading, they
Yeah.
can go and check out.
Ooh, let's see. Resources, resources. Okay. Honestly, your community, getting out there, being with people. I cannot understate how important my community was in the early days of Perelel and still is today. I would go to a ton of events, meet a million brilliant people. Someone would always know a great consultant for this or
Mm-hmm.
a great part-time person for that. And at the end of the day, what do they say? Half of success is showing up. I mean, I got so many incredible recommendations just from my community by showing up and being there and going to the dinner that I was too tired to go to, but I would go
Yes.
anyway.
Yes.
So really just my community has been incredible. Although I've noticed that you have an amazing community and I've heard incredible things
Oh,
about
they
all the
are an amazing
resources
group.
there.
Yeah. There's an
Yeah,
amazing group of
it's
women.
amazing to have that. So yeah, for me, it's really been honestly my community, whether it be professional colleagues to now I have a group of other founder friends that are, in the boat with me, people that have businesses about the same stage. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like having kids. When you have a 2-year-old, you can better relate to someone who's
So
a
true.
2-year-old because all of a sudden, you forget everything that happened with 1-year-olds.
There's a reason why mums groups are based on the month that you give birth because
Yes,
3 months in, it's irrelevant.
exactly. But it's almost that way with a company.
Yes, so
When I
true.
think about who I need to support me shoulder to shoulder, it's my founder friends that have businesses that are about 5, 6, 7 years
Yes.
old. And so, it's, you're only as good as your village.
Yeah,
And for me, it's been critical to every step.
I love that.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you so much for coming on Female Founder World.
Thank
Where can
you.
people find you? Where can they find Perelel?
Sure. You can find me at It's Alex Taylor on Instagram, and you can find Perelel at Perelel Health on Instagram, online, and all the usual spots.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
thank you for having me.
I just wanted to end the show with a quick shout out to all of our paid Business Besties subscribers. For $12.99 a month, you get access to a weekly live call with mentors who we handpick from this podcast community. These are founders who have been on the show, experts and operators that are helping to build their businesses. And we want to give you access in a small group setting on live calls every single week so that you can get the mentorship and advice that you need to take your business to the next level. In addition to the live calls and the community, you also get access to a big database of workshop recordings, group coaching call recordings, templates, contact lists, and just all of the tools and resources that you need to make this business a success. Head to bestie.femalefounderworld.com or the link in the show notes to sign up now.